Welcome to the broadcast, my dears. Pop on the kettle and pour yourself a fruit tea and join me for a gossip, a little chinwag. And I'm in the mood for rambling, so this isn't going to be something punchy and succinct and fantastically produced, my dear. I'm just in the mood to have a gossip with some company, and you'll do. I'm always charmed, touched by your presence, my dears. So if I'll do, you'll do. You know, we'll have to put up with each other. What else have we got, my dear? What else have we got here in the fruit basket? But we have a mystery to solve first, my dears. We have a mystery to solve, and it went completely under my radar during the last broadcast when I flashed up footage of Prince William undertaking some military exercises. But you spotted it. Of course you did. Of course you did. You're on the ball. The smoking duck said there was a woman in a burqa running across the field. Fee says, Dearest River, I hope you're doing well, my dear. During tonight's upload, I spotted something in the background that made me laugh heartily and ponder with mischievous thoughts. I'm sorry to be a bit pedantic, my dear, but this is one of my bugbears. It's a very common mistake. The word is mischievous, not mischievous. Most people think it's mischievous and spelt the way you've spelt it, but no, my dear, mischievous. That's it. If you'll excuse me. I saw something in the background, I laughed heartily, and I pondered with mischievous thoughts as there appears to be a nun running across the field behind Prince William. I watched 6 or 7 times just to check again and again, and each time I got more convinced. Where did she come from and where did she go? Please help solve the running nun mystery and stay fruity. I will, dear, thank you. And Charlie's gal. Who was that person in the black cape running through the field behind William as he met the military personnel? So, full of confusion. Well, they were scuttling along, weren't they? And as soon as you brought my attention to it, as soon as I looked at it, I immediately thought of that figure. Do you remember that Grim Reaper figure that was scuttling along? And everybody thought, it's Meghan, it's the Duchess of Sussex. And that's exactly what came to my mind. I cannot lie. Who else would it be? Scuttling along there, stalking William, probably with some sort of recording device, droning along, thinking it's some kind of disguise. And there was, of course, that time when everybody thought that poor Carl Jenkins was Meghan in disguise at the coronation. So you can't put anything past that girl. She could have been on her way to yoga practice, or just generally stalking the prince that she could never have in any way. And Princess Catherine has him again and again and again. My king, make me your queen. Oh, we'd all be made a queen for Big Willie, wouldn't we, ladies? But moreover, do let me know. Do let me know in the comments if you know exactly what was going on there and what that creature was scuttling along. Also, I want to mention the fact that I made a boob. Well, I make a lot of boobs, I'm sure, my dear, in every broadcast. But as you told me, Brianne Graziano, Joanna Melton Butler and Diane Seymour, the state visit from Korea was not the King's first state visit. How could I forget, honestly? Of course, that was South Africa last year, wasn't it? Oh, no, what am I thinking about? Daft. I think I read it somewhere that it was the King's first state visit, and I just jotted it down. Stupid. It all blurs into one feast, this royal banquet. But it's a nice reminder for those of you who make the mistake to think that I'm a royal expert or a historian or some sort of pundit. I have no desire to be any of those things, my dear. I am just here to gossip with you and offer you a bit of company, my dear. And that's what I'm going to do today. The bulk of this broadcast will be chewing over the entrails offered by Omid Scobie with regards to his forthcoming publication, Endgame, by Omid Scobie. That's what I'll be chewing over. Why not? But first of all, a quick comment from David, who said, a nice broadcast. South Korea do very well bringing in the giant soft power they have in the form of the lovely women of Blackpink. Lisa in the blue number is actually Thai and is known as Queen Lisa. She is the world ambassador for many top brands and has a massive following. She's quite humble. Yeah, I thought I'd mention this because I was speaking about my affection for Lisa's gown in the last broadcast, and how well Blackpink behaved, and I had so many comments from people who love them, who know about them, and also lots of comments from people who'd never heard about them. And all I can tell you, my dear, is that, I was aware of them. In March this year, they were the most streamed girl group on Spotify. They're very big, and one of their hits was the most watched YouTube video on YouTube, music video on YouTube of all time when it came out a while ago. And the K-pop industry in its totality in Korea is worth 8 billion annually to their economy. It's big, 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 big business. So I mention this because the king has always given a gentle nod, as have other members of the royal family, if it's relevant to entertainers, pop stars, those in the public eye. And in this circumstance, Blackpink were ambassadors for the United Kingdom at the behest of the UK government, and the state visit comes at the behest of the UK government. They are the ones that initiate it and ask the king to invite and host other nations. It comes from the government, and also the honour that was bestowed upon each member of Blackpink comes from the government. And it was a naturally savvy move to have them there. That shouldn't be underestimated, this kind of thing. A really nice touch. It was a natural touch, but also savvy because it's generated huge enthusiasm in Asia, as you suggest, David dear. And as you also told me, also Rose being the only member from the Commonwealth, we do hope she takes up the offer of being married in the cathedral. Social media is abuzz of this visit, and yes, I saw some of it for myself in quarters that would never go crazy for the royal family, but I saw so much forthcoming with a lot of responses written in the Korean language, and it was quite obvious that it was getting a lot of very favourable, positive coverage, as it naturally would, and particularly among the young. And it's very important to capture the imaginations of the young, because this is where it's all coming up from, isn't it, my dears? The Harkles, you see, the likes of the Harkles and the BLM movement, all these passing clouds, these are disposable fashion. All the rage for a season to be tossed out to Goodwill, down the line, tossed out, ending up in some charity shop as bric-a-brac. That is that sort of thing, but royalty doesn't pander to what's hot and what's not. Although I will say the rebuke of Susan Hussey from Prince William came a little bit too close for comfort. I'm not saying they don't tread a thin line at certain times, but the king has always embraced figures from the pop world, from the classical world, even Spice World. Remember, they were aligned with the Spice Girls at one point and continued to be in some formats. Barbara Streisand, Sheila Ferguson, oh yes, Kylie Minogue, it goes back decades, dear. Now we will turn to Endgame, and I'm going to offer my thoughts on some of Omid Scobie's thoughts, as reported. As he says himself, this is if what has appeared in Paris Match magazine have been translated correctly, because he has insinuated that some journalists might have been using Google Translate and not really getting the crux of what the points he was trying to make. But let's go with what the headlines are telling us, and I shall respond in kind to the various points. The first point being that of rivals. The rivals of Catherine and Meghan. Ha! Yeah, right. Scobie quotes a close friend of the Waleses as he does this. Well, first of all, no close friend of the Waleses would think or say anything of the sort at all. So, first of all, we can dismiss that claim. But apparently this close friend says that Kate immediately detected a rival to her when Meghan arrived on the scene. Oh, really? Catherine's status cannot be rivalled. Do you not understand this? She will be queen consort to a British monarch and is mother to another British monarch. Her DNA, her genetic supply will resonate throughout the cells of any future monarch in British history. Yes, mother to a sovereign. She has no rival. She's more glamorous. She's more intelligent. She's more, well, maybe that's pushing it, but she's more glamorous. I'm being cheeky. She's more glamorous, she's clued up, and she's better looking than Meghan, that's for sure. And she already has Prince William's heart. Popularity, is that the other thing that she could be seeing Meghan as a rival for? Well, I'm sorry, but I don't see Meghan or Harry being any rival for popularity. They were popular. They would have gone on to be popular if they'd behaved themselves, but they would have been doing their service for the royal family, and any popularity they enjoyed would have bolstered Catherine and William. So I don't see that. But although it wouldn't have been a threat to Catherine's popularity, there was the understanding that Harry has many issues, as he himself admits, and is a rather damaged character, and for that we have some sympathy. But a lot of those characteristics manifest as volatility and jealousy, so it was understandable if Catherine and William were somewhat guarded. Especially when Meghan leapt on Catherine in the first instance for a great big hug and sloppy kisses, and was blagging lip glosses in a trice. Catherine detected an uppity arriviste. That is the truth of the matter. She was intelligent. She was not canny and conniving, not that sort of intelligence that Meghan has in spades. She was intelligent enough to receive the signals. Over familiarity, immediate. Too much ambition of the wrong sort. There's healthy ambition, and then there's the ambition of the arriviste. Stick that in your archetypes podcast and smoke it, lover girl. And lover boy. And as well as those uppity ideas, there was Meghan's rivalry. It was Meghan's rivalry on top of Harry's double rivalry, which was a deadly cocktail, and that was sensed. That was sensed by Catherine. If she sensed any rivalry, it was the Sussex duo as a weak link in the chainmail of royal armour, a rhinestone among crown jewels, if you will. In response to the hugs and the lip gloss demands, Catherine's barrier of natural reserve went up, and perhaps it appeared icy. So be it. It's better to begin in earnest and in honesty rather to give off the false impression of being besties. Do you understand? Meghan was trying to forge them as besties or pseudo-besties from the offing, with no history, no relationship, simply because she was shagging Harry. You know, all of a sudden, sisters wanted to do a Kylie and Danny, and Catherine, quite rightly, drew down the veil. And if that appeared as Ice Maiden, so be it. You weren't besties, she wasn't going to pretend you were. If time had gone by and you'd proved yourself to be of honour, of decency, of good standing, then anything was on the table. But she sensed it, and she was right. Time proved the gal to be right. Do you see? That's why she's royal. The claims are that the Waleses allowed negative Sussex rumours to circulate. Wrong. Wrong. Negative rumours were circulating by Sussex survivors and the like, and there is little power that the Waleses had to stop them. So, you know, you can't frame it that way, I'm afraid, my dear. I think that's very unfair. Yes, there were negative rumours. Justifiably so. Lest we forget the words of Jason Knauf. The Duchess seems intent on always having someone in her sights. She is bullying so-and-so and seeking to undermine her confidence. there from the mouth of Knauf speaks the truth. And, lest we also forget, that very same source, that mouth of Knauf, was decorated with a prestigious honour this year, all those years later, this year. Lieutenant of the Royal Victorian Order, appearing in the King's New Year's honours. So if he had misspoken on that email, or if it was so utterly, indescribably wrong of him to do so, and he made a terrible error of judgment, you would think that the King wouldn't be honouring him as he did this year, and pinning awards on him as Prince William was this year, and that's exactly what happened. So were they negative rumours swirling, Mr. Scobie, or were they substantive facts? Mr. Scobie claims that Harry and Meghan sent the 3 Wales children gifts last Christmas, but received no response from William and Catherine, even a text. And he claims that they have not spoken since 2019. Communication had to be cut off, and I'm glad it was. Can you stomach the absurdity, if what Mr. Scobie tells us is true about them dispatching Christmas prezzies for the Wales children? The absurdity of wreaking absolute havoc for William, his dear wife, and their entire family, and then sending presents. What did they expect? Where is the nobility in that? If Harry really feels that he's been indubitably wronged by his brother, and that his wife has been besmirched by them, where is his nobility and his dignity? There is also the fact that every interaction they have or indulge, or even every non-interaction, as we see now, is weaponized against them, and you don't know how it's going to be used in future. So you know what it's like with these characters, even ones that you love with all your heart. Sometimes there are occasions when communications must be sliced. And if you think I'm being a hypocrite in any way because Meghan cut off communications with her father, I have always actually said that, unlike some other quarters, I don't blame her for that, because I don't think that his behaviour and that of the other members of his family have been especially impeccable. So no, there's no hypocrisy here. But the question is, do Harry and Meghan really behave this way, sending gifts and prezzies because they want to sneak their way back into the affection of the Waleses, or is it because it's a form of gaslighting? Well, Mr. Scobie certainly gets one thing right here. He claims their relationship is beyond repair. I more or less concur at this point, as I've told you. William is incandescent. Absolutely nothing has changed since Spare was published, he tells us. I concur. The Prince of Wales sees his brother as a defector. That was the word that was used. And he alleges that William doesn't want to know Harry and feels that he is brainwashed by an army of therapists. Well, go figure. And in the blurb of this book, Endgame, William is branded power-hungry and Charles is branded an unpopular king. Well, I'm going to be generous in this circumstance. I'm not going to rush to defend the king in an overzealous way, because although I would certainly say that what I've seen over the last year tells me that the king enjoys a great deal of popularity, not just home but abroad, a surprising amount of popularity. I will be generous enough to say that I do understand that he, especially in comparison to the late perfection of the late Elizabeth, can be categorised as unpopular in some quarters, in some ways. He doesn't please everybody. So I can be generous enough to give them that, if they want to use that word, in the context of a dramatic story, which is what Endgame is going to be. But as for William being power-hungry, no, I won't let you have that, my dear. William was imbued with power when he was a twinkle in his pa's eye. It's one thing that he inhabits by the very fact of his birth, and he has no need to chase power or hunger for power. You got the wrong brother there, my dear Mr. Scobie. You've got the wrong brother. Harry is the one that has no power. Goose egg. Goose egg. He has no power. Just an ornament, a tchotchke on the mantelpiece of royalty. Mr. Scobie claims that a message was circulated. This was a riot. This one really tickled me. Mr. Scobie claims that a message was circulated in the royal family telling them not to trust Harry after Spare was released. The king is not in the habit of sending round robins telling members of the royal family that the sky is blue, stating the bloody obvious. He claims a source close to the king, the Duke of Sussex? A close source to the king said that Charles was cautious after Prince Harry called his father to pass on his best wishes 3 weeks after the book was published. Oh, that was the bit that got me. Can you imagine publishing that book? That attempt at ruining the king's entire life and crushing the monarchy. 3 weeks after that was published, he called him to pass on his best wishes. I mean, if that's true, there is an element of the absolutely cruel and wicked to that kind of adventure, I'm afraid to say. He says, Charles wanted to limit their discussion to a harmless exchange. Concerning Harry, the message that circulated in the family was not to trust him. Everyone took it very seriously. Despite the strained relationship, they keep him up to date by sending photos of their children. Oh, how sweet! How sweet. He claims that when Harry flew to London High Court in March, the king ignored his request for a meeting and ordered an assistant to tell him that he was busy. Well, good for him, because the fact is, he was. He had a coronation to deal with in the matter of being king. The absolute entitlement of these two beggars belief. Harry would have had his father's ear a lot more readily if he had remained in this kingdom. Not that I'm complaining that he's gone. But if he hadn't been so whipped by the puss, then, and the lure of filthy lucre abroad, emerging opportunities, then he could have hunkered down somewhere that wasn't in the middle of Hollywood, where it would have been cheaper and easier to secure him and to be in closer contact with the king. Maybe the king always seems to be extraordinarily busy because he knows whenever he picks up the phone to, you want something, Harry. You want a flight, you want security, you want an apology for your wife. You want the crown jewels, you want William's job. Want, take. Can you blame the bank of mum and dad for being out of office? We are told that the Duchess of Sussex accused 2 people in the royal household of airing concerns about Archie's skin colour. They had concerns about my child's skin colour. They probably spent more time worrying about whether or not it'd be ginger, my dear, than thinking about the skin colour, which proved to be so white it's nearly blue. She wrote to the king. She wrote to King Charles. Oh, and you can just imagine the curlicues, can't we? Dear Charles from Meghan Markle, with curlicues all daubed all over the place. An embossed logo, gold leaf, scented with vanilla or bluebell. But of course we are not furnished with the facts of who these apparent 2 royal bigots were, these royal racists. Oh, did I say they were racist? Did I say that? Did you say that? The unconscious bias. No, Harry, we heard you the first time. And I am quite sure that Meghan, in all her diligence as an efficient businesswoman and an executive who's going to tell you what's key, I'm sure she had a copy of that letter stamped and filed, just like she did with her other letter to Daddy. Well, now she's writing her letter to Pa, and she's going to make sure that all the legal avenues are signed, sealed and delivered in case she wants to re-present it to the world down the line, perhaps after a divorce, when she comes out with all her volumes. This was the letter I wrote to Charles that he ignored about the 2 royal racists. Well, the truth is that there were 2 royal racists lying at the heart of that family. Harry and Meghan. The book claims that Harry has said to friends or to somebody, "I'm ready to forget. I'm ready. At last the time has come. Get an apology or an explanation. At this point, who cares, right? Who cares? I'm ready to forget." How magnanimous. But we're not ready to forget, are we, my fruits? We're not ready to forget. Nor is the King or the Prince of Wales. What happened to your valour and your honour, Harry, that you are suddenly ready to forgive and forget and do away with apologies? Have you perhaps become a little bit disillusioned with the golden syrupy sunshine of Montecito and the golden syrupy syrup that's been poured in your ear? Now that you're isolated from all of those who truly held you dear? From one trap into another, my dear, a honey trap. Is it because you are in thrall to the pussy whip, my dear boy, held hostage by a cunning fantasist almost as warped as yourself? He's running out of options. That's the cold hard truth of it, my dear. Running out of options. Desperation. Mr. Scobie claims that Meghan never wants to set foot in England again. Oh, champagne! Champagne for everyone, my dear. Bottoms up. Let's toast that, shall we? Bottoms up and bon appetito. Never wants to set foot in England again. We don't want those trotters setting foot on our precious kingdom again. We don't want it. So don't try and turn it around and claim that you don't want to be here. We never wanted you. What we do know is that you never wanted to settle here. It was just a stopover on your way to Hollywood, and you had that ambition from the offing. We know that. She never wants to be involved in the British monarchy again. Well, she's got no choice, love. You got no choice. So quit shaping the narrative, because we see that shape, and it's pear-shaped. And we are told that Meghan didn't attend the King's coronation as she refused to dive back into the soap opera of the court. The soap opera. Well, we know who else used that analogy. And that was the late Duke, Prince Philip, who on his deathbed told his dear friends, they were the exact words he used, that he was very dismayed in the wake of the Oprah interview that the royal family were being seen as a soap opera. So if that's true, if she was avoiding the court of the soap opera, she was according a production of her own making, a production of the soapy kind that would put Aaron Spelling to shame and Reg Grundy. And this claim was rather delicious, I thought. Apparently Princess Anne encouraged Charles to initiate Frogsit, the eviction from Frogmore, Frogsbourne Cottage, as part of a strict approach towards the couple. Well, I can only hope that that's true. Apparently Harry said, "Don't you want to see your grandchildren anymore?" And apparently Prince Edward, we are told, was the only one who was concerned about Harry's mental health. Well, I think that Scobie's just picked that up from an interview with Prince Edward during that time. What was he then? Oh yeah, he was a Wessex, wasn't he? I remember an interview with Prince Edward where he was quizzed on all Harry's claims, and he just, sort of graciously said, well, we've all been through it. We all understand. We've all been through what he's going through. With not an inch of bitterness betrayed in his eyes. Really, really, very good man. And sees people as the late Queen did. She only saw the good in people. She searched out that Christian goodness in people. She really, really did, every single time. It's something to aspire to, but not many of us attain that sort of level. She got it, and I think Edward gets it. And I think that is what Scobie's pointing to. And he's trying to pass it off as exclusive information of his here. But who knows? Maybe somebody else has been feeding him various data. Who knows? And he says, meanwhile, the king could not bring himself to hurt his brother, Andrew. He was in tears because he was afraid for Andrew's mental health. Do we really believe that the king broke down and wept in front of somebody who was then able to go and inform Omid Scobie? I mean, really? Who might that have been? Fergie? You know, she's got loose lips, but she wouldn't normally betray the hand that feeds her in the form of the king. So who else exactly is the king breaking down in tears in front of who's going back to? Maybe Andrew himself? I mean, this stretches the imagination a little bit, unless you've got CCTV in Clarence House. Charles leads with his head and his heart, Scobie tells us. Well, that's quite a good balance, isn't it? Because usually one leads with one or the other. If he's leading with both, then he's got both pictures covered. But he tells us William is colder. Maybe William is just more practical. But you see him as colder, fair enough. He wants the job done, and he had no problem with casualties along the way. Well, I will say that was true for Sue Hussey, who became a temporary casualty. Was always loved and cherished by William, but was made a public show of, and I'm afraid that I still have a problem with that. I will always have a problem. I don't care if they're playing the long game. I don't like it. But it's true to say William is more no-nonsense, and he's not his father, but also he has no paternal duty. A fraternal duty is very different to a paternal one. And as a brother, Prince William was betrayed bitterly. So I don't hold any coldness or aloofness against him whatsoever in light of his incandescence towards his treatment at the hands of Harry. Terrible. The book claims that Harry was kept in the dark about the late Queen's impending death. Well, what's he going to do about it? By the next morning, we are told, the Sussexes had no idea that Buckingham Palace was already planning for the Queen's final hours in the first day of the monarchy's new era, until the phone started ringing. An unknown number. He usually ignored those. Well, I looked back over Spare, the epilogue in Spare, and you can just see that Scobie's lifted that information from Spare. I would wager that a lot of this upcoming book is just rehashed episodes from Spare. But in Prince Harry's Spare, what he writes there is, a call came in around lunchtime, unknown number. Hello? It was Pa. Granny's health had taken a turn. So exactly the same thing was revealed in Spare. And then Scobie credits Meghan with telling her husband to pick up the phone just before it stopped. So he throws that in for a little bit of dramatic license. And then, if you go back to Spare, you see that Harry wrote, by now, mid-afternoon, no response from Willie. My only option was a charter out of Luton. This was another bit that made me giggle. When I read Spare, and despair at Spare, my only option was a charter out of Luton. I mean, this is a boy that accuses the likes of Catherine and William of being tone deaf to privileges and unconscious biases, this kind of thing. Oh, there was no other option but to charter a private jet from Luton to Balmoral. 30 grand, what the hell. Well, there were other options, Harry dear. I do appreciate you wanted to get there as quick as you could, but you'd already done your best to kill her off anyway, so what would turning up 4 hours early be anyway? What difference would it make? Should have already kicked the bucket while you were besmirching her and her Commonwealth legacy, as we saw with the late Duke. But you could have driven there. There are roads, You'll take the high road and I'll take the low road. I'll be in Scotland afore ye. Well, Willie took one road, you took the other road, but you could have driven there. I think it's 8 hours, so yes, you would have missed it. You missed it anyway, but at least you would have made your merry way there in a humble style, not in a braggadocious, Harry to the rescue type way. I realise this can be read in two ways. You could say it was a loving grandson wanting to witness his granny's last moments, and I will accept that. But I have to look at the fuzzy end of the lollipop as well. And that fuzzy end is the fact that it was extremely entitled behaviour and rather unnecessary. So it looks like we're going to be kept busy over the next few weeks, doesn't it, my dear, in the wake of Mr. Scobie's upcoming tome. I am prepared to suspend judgment and see exactly what he's got to say and what information has been fed. Drop by golden syrupy drop. Thank you for your company, and I'll catch up with you next time, my dears. Doodle pip.